Hey everybody, thanks for joining. We're just going to give this a few minutes, maybe one or two, to allow people to trickle in, and then we'll get things started. Until then, jump in that chat. Always happy to hear where people are from or where they're tuning in from and saying hello. All right, give it another couple seconds here and then we'll get things started. Hey everyone, my name is Patrick Prendergast. I'm the Digital Marketing Coordinator at Yamaha Unified Communications. We're so excited to have you all here today for our next Wednesday Waves webinar, going over Yamaha wireless applications and use cases. I'd like to make you aware that this webinar will be recorded and posted to our YouTube after its conclusion. Additionally, there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll be monitoring this and we'll be holding questions until the end. With that, I'm thrilled to introduce to you our Senior Field Systems Engineer, Tim Mackie.
Thank you very much, Patrick, and welcome everybody. I'm excited to have you folks here for this webinar. It's been a fun series, and I've enjoyed creating this content and doing these webinars very, very much. This is the Wednesday webinar series. This is the third of four. The first one was on March 13th, where we covered unleashing unrivaled clarity, selecting the ideal wireless system. Last month, my counterpart Daniel Clayman did webinar number 2, where we went over decoding conferencing systems, a guide to specifying the perfect wireless solution. Both of those are recorded and available. And today, as you can see, we're going to be going over webinar number 3, elevating customer experience, application use cases for the Yamaha wireless microphone system. So with that, what we will cover today are the basics and advanced applications. What requirements shift the design from one to the other? Now, I've been doing conferencing now for 20 years, and when I was putting together this presentation, I really thought about all of the designs. I do hundreds of designs over the last year with many dealers and integrators. Literally, all I do is room design for conferencing. I don't do live sound venues, and I don't do hospitality. My focus for 20 years really has been in the conferencing space. And what I want to go over today is what I see in all of those room designs, the shift in what feature sets are being asked for, and what changes a basic Zoom or Teams room into a more advanced application, and how we address those, and why the Yamaha RMW wireless microphone system is ideal for any of those applications. We're going to talk about voice lift and mix minus. These terms get bandied around a lot, and there's a lot of confusion as to what these are. And really, when I'm asking my questions of, hey, what size is the room? What are the dimensions? What is the ceiling height? What are the materials in the room? What are the wall types? How many people do we need to cover? What is our coverage area? What are our seating arrangements? The big question always comes down to, are you doing voice lift? And we'll talk about that, because that really changes the design of the room. And we'll look at these things. And we'll talk about how the RMW works in any of these rooms, what I call the 90% rooms and the 10% rooms, and we'll take a look at that. And then we'll look at some real case studies, some of our actual success stories as well at the end. So with that, let's take a look at basic and advanced applications. For me, basic conferencing is just that. We are doing conferencing. We might be doing combine and divide rooms. This used to be an advanced feature, but not anymore with ADECIA, with Yamaha's ADECIA solution featuring the RMCR processor, and we'll look at that. Advanced rooms. When people start asking about the requirement for voice lift, mix minus, multiple speaker zones, that's when I start shifting my thinking into, is this a basic room or an advanced room? And we'll look at which processor I select to get that job done. We can accomplish 100% of the rooms out there with world-class audio, but there's generally two directions we go in when we are using the RMW mics for these applications, and we will use one of these processors or the other. So let's talk about conferencing first. We're not going to go over AEC today, or noise cancellation, or active dereverberation, or some of the usual DSP processes that are required for these rooms. We are going to talk about audio paths and the audio routing specifically, because that's more important for me in these designs that we're going to talk about today. So over here on the left in this legend, we have our RMW gooseneck long, our 12-inch gooseneck microphone, and we have the industry standard symbol for an in-room speaker. Now, we could be talking about ceiling speakers, wall speakers, our amazing line array speakers at the front of the room. The type of speaker really isn't important for the conversation. So for this conversation today and for these illustrations, we're just going to be looking at typical ceiling speakers for these diagrams. So what we have here is conferencing. And when we look at the audio routing, we basically have some folks sitting at a table in New York. Everybody's got a gooseneck microphone, and I've highlighted them in red. And as you can see, the red audio comes out of the speakers in Chicago, and vice versa. The audio from the microphones on this table get routed to the speakers in New York. Now, back in the day, this only required a single speaker channel or speaker zone. Forever, conferencing was always mono. Well, now with the introduction of Bluetooth and USB conferencing and playing YouTube and video content, I start all my designs now with a stereo application, or at least consider a processor that can sum left and right together to use existing mono channels. But again, we're looking here at just a mono signal path. Now, to accomplish these 90% rooms, and what I mean by that is 90% of the designs I work on with our customers or more are not what I consider an advanced room design. We can accomplish those 90% of our bread and butter rooms with what you're looking at right here. Now, this is the ADECIA solution, and the RMW is a part of one of the three microphone choices you can have in our solution. What's big about this groundbreaking solution Yamaha introduced is the level of automation in here. We're always talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and we certainly have AI algorithms and algorithms of that type within our solutions. But what we really want to talk about in our space, in our sector, is IA, intelligent automation. And Yamaha has brought a level of automation to conferencing, making it now that you don't need to be an advanced audio engineer to spend hours programming a traditional DSP processor and setting up a room. Literally, your entry-level techs that can mount the equipment with the RMCR and a few mouse clicks and a few basic bits of knowledge can leave that room in about a minute with world-class audio once they've powered this system up. Everything is powered by the switch. We have a 16-channel card in here, so we can support mixing and matching up to 16 of our mics. You can do 2 complete RMW systems, 16 microphones, with one of these RMCRs. And you'll notice these 2 analog ports. We'll talk about those in a second. Folks, 16 digital mic channels plus 2 analog mic channels for a total of 18 mics. That's 90% of our rooms. Most rooms do not scale beyond that need. Now, let's talk a little bit about voice lift, and then we're going to elaborate on that. Voice lift is when the audio in the microphones is not only being sent to Chicago via your computer on your Teams or Zoom call, but that audio is also going into the local room itself. We have the ability within the ADECIA solution to have 2 analog mics come in that join the digital mics on the Teams and Zoom calls, but these mics only route to the in-room speakers with feedback suppression, echo suppression. These are designed to have 2 clip-on wearable mics, 2 presenter mics at the front of the room. Now, some of the advanced features I'm going to talk about aren't really prevalent anymore. I used to do a lot of mix minus rooms 20 years ago. Now, I would say they're 1 to 5% max of the rooms we do. But voice lift's a big one. And most rooms do not need voice lift. Let's talk about that for a second. Conferencing has changed from these big boardrooms, big Board of Regent rooms, to huddle rooms, smaller conference rooms, medium-sized conference rooms. The whole premise and use case of these rooms has shifted. We're not doing massive rooms anymore. If you take a 20 by 20 room, That's about the size of your average two-car garage at home. None of us needs an amplifier and a speaker to hear ourselves in a two-car garage. Somebody 16, 15 feet away in a small room, we can all hear each other. But if you want to have presentation, the ADECIA solution has that ability to bring in voice lift. And we're going to expand on voice lift a little bit too. What I want to talk about here, though, is for the advanced rooms, any rooms that need voice lift, mix minus, multiple speaker zones. Now we simply swap out the CR processor for our full enterprise class MRX7D DSP. This is an open architecture DSP with 16 in, 8 analog out. It has GPI, 64 Dante in and outs, and that's a huge deal because back up one slide to this distributed architecture. One of the things we did with ADECIA is we took that DSP processing out of the central box and built it into the microphones. That's what makes this RMW so unique, our table mics unique, our ceiling mic unique. The DSP is built in. This box doesn't do the DSP work. It simply aggregates and collects all the signals and mixes them, EQs them, and sends them where you want. But if you need to do an advanced system, we swap out the RMCR for this. Because of the distributed architecture, if you're not doing voice lift, this guy right here will do 64 microphones divided into multiple rooms, and we can do up to 8 discrete analog output speaker zones and as many as you want, up to the 64 of the Dante as well. Folks, for about twice the price of the RMCR, this is a world-class box that does a ton of stuff. It also has our speech privacy generator in there as well. It has full equalization, feedback suppression. This is what I would put up against any enterprise class DSP on the market. Now, the MRX7 is easy to control too. One of the big advancements with ADECIA, with our release of 2.5, is we've added in a host of control within the solution. Forget third-party control systems. For 90+% of those rooms, they're no longer needed. Back up real quick. You see this port right here? Digital control panel. You can plug any of these two control panels, the DCP-1V4S and the DCP-1V1S. Here you can have 4 source changes, preset changes, and a volume control. And here the same thing, but now you can control 4 zones. And those plug directly into the MRX7, a very cost-effective, easy control solution when needed. For more advanced control, we have the MCP wall plate. This plugs PoE into the switch. Again, everything's powered by the switch, and this then talks over the network to the MRX7. And by the way, this guy can also talk to the RMCR. We don't generally need or use control in our 90% rooms, but if you want to, keep in mind, you don't need to go anywhere but to Yamaha. The MCP wall plate works for both systems. Really, really cool stuff. Works for both systems. In addition to the physical wall plates, with Provisionaire setup and control software, which is free from Yamaha, you can set up your own virtual touch panels to load onto a PC or a tablet. We have built-in templates for combine and divide, and we're going to talk about combine and divide. Back in the day, this was an advanced feature that would require that enterprise class DSP. No more. With Yamaha's RMCR on the RMW wireless mics, you can do combine and divide now with the basic RMCR, and we'll look at that. We've made combine and divide slick and simple for a basic tech to set up. Here you're looking at a screenshot of actually setting up what you want your GUI to look like. Here's a simple 2-way combine and divide. Very easy to represent, however you want to design those buttons. And here's using all 10 presets within our RMCR ADECIA solution. As you can see, we can support many permutations, an entire combine and divide suite. Or you can do some presets for turning on and off voice lift or adding extra bass for movie night. Whatever you want to do, you don't have to be stuck to a physical wall controller. We can do it virtually now with Provisionaire as well. So here is a system very similar to the ADECIA, but once you scale beyond the 16 channel of the RMCR, now you're going to substitute in the MRX7D. And again, you can use any of the optional wall plates in these solutions as well. So now let's talk about voice lift. It's a term that gets confused a lot. It's also synonymous with the term sound reinforcement. Now, in other verticals, people may use sound reinforcement differently, but in conferencing, to me, they're synonymous. It's the same term. So what is voice lift? Well, it's not public address. You know, I love motorcycle racing, and I love to spectate at the races too. And when I'm sitting in the grandstand, and there's a big horn speaker on a 20-foot pole in front of me, broadcasting out at 90+ dB, that's public address. That's a speaker that's putting out enough sound so that 100 people can hear it over the sound of motorcycles or a football game or whatever. Or if you have a DJ at a wedding who wants to make a big announcement, everybody come to the floor for the couple's first dance. That's public address. Voice lift is stuff different. It's subtle. Now, what we're looking at here is 2 tables at the front of the room, and we have an audience. We've got some mics on both tables, and these mics are being mixed together and gently reinforced or voice lifted into these speakers. Now, voice lift is just that, subtle. The person in this chair right here should hear this person talking just like they're sitting right next to each other. The sound pressure should be the same as the person is sitting adjacent to them. No more, no less. Voice lift is very purposeful, very subtle. So the whole point is to lift my voice into another area in the room. Now, take it to the next level. Mix minus used to be a big requirement, and mix minus was done in boards of regents. If you've got a 30, 40, 50-foot long boardroom table, you might need to do this. And mix minus is very simple. What we have here are 3 tables with a great distance between them. This could be a courtroom. The application does not matter. It's the same principle. Here we have a table with the 4 gooseneck mics highlighted in red. And the mix is this. We're taking the red table and the blue table, the audio from those, we're mixing it into the speaker zone above the green table. The minus part is I'm not reinforcing the red mics back into my own zone. That's the minus. It's really that straightforward. Here I'm taking these mics and I'm mixing these 2 into this zone, I'm mixing these 2 into this zone, and I'm mixing these 2 into this zone. What I'm not doing is voice lifting into my own local zone. And you probably wouldn't want to. Anytime you have a speaker very close to a microphone, that can generate a feedback loop. This requires multiple speaker zones. Back in the day, you would need at least 3 amplifier channels, 3 separate speaker zones. And again, to me, this is now a 6-zone system because I want to also accommodate left and right stereo, but it doesn't need to be. These are the advanced applications that the RMW can do as well. Because the RMW has a mode where you can turn off the internal DSP, the distributed architecture part, and go low latency, we can do the 10% rooms and the 90% rooms. Now we'll take this one step further and add in conferencing. We still have our mix minus scenario at play in this room for local audio, but now we're doing a Teams or Zoom call to Chicago. And as you can see, each zone is now including the pink audio from Chicago in its mix to its local area. But what we have in Chicago are all the tables mixed and sent there. Now you could double this. I didn't want to draw another slide. I could have had this entire scenario in Chicago, and both rooms could have complex mix and minus setups as well. But I think you get the idea. And the understanding of these terms is critical to how I choose these microphones for these applications. And I'm highlighting the fact that the RMW is perfect for any application. So again, the key points. Here is the system. Very sleek design. Aesthetics play a significant role in conferencing today. This system boasts a sleek and modern design. It seamlessly integrates into any room, any environment, from corporate boardrooms, classrooms, to upscale venues. The elegant, non-distracting appearance not only enhances the ambience of the room, but it really reflects the customer's commitment to quality and professionalism as well. So here are the highlights of this system. Amazing battery life, 20 hours of talk time out of a single charge. Back in the day when I used to sell DEC systems, we would be lucky to get 8 hours of talk time out of batteries. So a huge advancement in that. And by the way, this is a conservative number. I'm getting more than that in my testing. And 3.5 hours gets you that full charge. Battery health information is available to any control system. You can set up your GUI to see what your battery life is next to your volume control for that mic if you want. And again, a very slick, very small form factor charger base. The footprint is about the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I think our competition eats up an entire counter space for 24 mics. Their charger base is huge, and that's a big deal, right? And then, of course, this other feature that Yamaha included in the RMW wireless mic system is the ability to charge the mic when the battery is low at any table. Just plug it into a USB-C cable. Now the mic will stay fully active, charge up, and be used 24/7 round the clock, plugged in at the table. And we'll look at one of our customers that actually uses that use case. Again, very elegant, very small footprint on the charger. What's really cool about this system is you can do up to 64 mics in one room. We use DEC 6.0, so we can get better density in that environment. And 6.0 has higher fidelity on each channel. These things sound world class. By the way, I am talking to you on a 12-inch gooseneck right now. I literally should sound like a DJ in a booth with this microphone. But back in the day, we could only scale up to 44 mics with the Revo system. I think the competition could only do 32. So being able to do 64 mics means we can go into very, very large single rooms and single venues. We can also synchronize up to 20 systems. This is huge in education. If you have a classroom with an 8-channel system next to another one with another one with another one. Back in the day with wireless mics, you had to run an analog wire between all of those chassis to synchronize the 100 hertz DECT clock. Now we leverage the Dante network clock. We're already using Dante for all the routing. Why not use it to synchronize as well? Forget running analog wires. It is so easy to set up campus-wide solutions with the RMW system. And by the way, we also introduced a 16-channel WAP. So if you're doing 2 8-channel systems in one room, now you only have to run one Cat5 to the ceiling or the wall for the antenna. Keep in mind, you can mix and match these antennas as needed. We have an 8-channel and a 16-channel antenna. So again, here's the key advantages, right? I wouldn't use anything but DECT. We talked about that in the first webinar. This microphone system can be used with its built-in DSP, with the RMCR for those 90% bread and butter rooms where it just does not get any easier or cleaner to deploy. And we can put it into a low latency mode for those advanced applications that need voice lift. You know, as remote collaboration becomes more increasingly prevalent, compatibility with popular platforms like Teams and Zoom is critical. Our system is the only wireless microphone system on the market certified for use by Teams, Microsoft, guaranteeing seamless integration and exceptional audio performance for virtual meetings and conferences. With Yamaha, users really do experience crystal clear audio in these meetings. And again, that USB-C power is a really huge advantage. So here's how we use the RMW system with its built-in DSP, doing the echo cancellation within what we call our 90% solution, most rooms. This is all you need. Pick the mics, pick your W mics, grab your controller. And by the way, our controller will support any existing analog speakers or both, and there's crossovers in here. I've bi-amped my conference room. I have a 10-inch powered sub plugged in, and I'm only sending 150 hertz and up to my line arrays. I literally rock out with my conference system between meetings. So that's your distributed architecture for your 90% rooms. Now here is where you're going to use it as a standalone system with that MRX7D. This is a budget-friendly solution with built-in echo cancellation. AEC really is critical. With traditional setups, it requires a full DSP to implement that AEC, and we can support that as well with the MRX7D. And again, keep in mind, we also do have the ability to do 20 of these systems campus-wide. Now, what's cool about the MRX7, because it's got 64 channel, if you're not doing voice lift, you can now do 10 rooms with one DSP and have multiple mics in each room, and then have a USB Dante interface for each room. This thing can literally be subdivided. I used one recently centrally to drive over 4 rooms and have presets for combine and divide capabilities. This is really an awesome way to use the RMW mics. So let's take a look at some of those customer installations. As you can see here, one of our customers has this on a slide-out tray. They simply slide it into the rack and shut the door. When they come into the room, they open the door, everyone grabs a mic, walks out to the table, and you're now having world-class audio in that space. Here's another look. I think this is Houston Zoo down in Houston. Now, this one came to me from my co-worker up in the Northeast, Eric Talbert, worked with this customer. This is a courtroom in New York, and we're going to talk about this because this had some of those what I call advanced requirements. They had major acoustical issues in this room. They spent over $100,000 on acoustic panels. For me, kudos to them for putting in acoustic panels. That's often overlooked. $100,000 is not typically what you would have to spend for acoustic panels, but you get the idea. They had some real challenges in here. They wanted to do conferencing in here, which meant Teams and Zoom, which meant we had to have echo cancellation. They wanted to do streaming. They wanted to have high-quality streaming of the events going on in here and post that content to YouTube. The solution we went with in here was simple. We used 20 of the gooseneck longs around the facility and 4 of the RMWs. We used 3 RMW wireless systems. We put in 4 of our line array VXL speakers, all driven by the switch. In fact, you can barely see one of them behind the flags up there. That is one of the VXL line arrays. They come in white and black. They're paintable. And there were 4 around this room, perfect for this venue. And then we used the MRX7D processor to accomplish all of this. But their main goal was clarity and really good audio for their streaming and YouTube content. Eric Talbot, and this is typical of what we'll do when we're working with a customer. Eric put together this lovely conceptual drawing. Again, this isn't a line diagram or a build-off schematic at all, but this is showing you how this is laid out. And again, we're leveraging the existing customer equipment here. We're using their existing analog and RF wireless mics. There's their engine for all of their video streaming and content processing, the TVs. You should know from our other webinars that we support full camera tracking with our microphones, with our ceiling mics, but also with certain camera makers, you can track off the wireless mics as well. Here we had 24 mics in that room. And again, we used one 16 channel antenna and one 8, just one less antenna in the room. We only had to run 2 antennas into that room. So this is excuse me, hit the wrong button. This is an example of an extremely successful use case in this space in New York for this customer. Now, the next one I want to talk about was really, really cool. This was a national safety organization who goes around the country setting up in hotel combine and divide rooms. They want to have 2 complete systems, a combine and divide, and then to have separate sessions. And then when they open the door, they want to have one cohesive system sharing all the mics and speakers for a big group session. Now, they used Pelican cases and tripods, and this was an entirely mobile setup. And again, oops, apologize, folks, about clicking the mouse. The whole premise here is they did need combine and divide, and we're going to talk about that. Back in the day, combine and divide was very complex, but with ADECIA and the RMW mics, it is a breeze, very easy to set up. So they wanted to be able to go into a system, quickly set up with no training of anyone using the system, that anyone could very simply plug the system in, run the wires to the speakers, and then set the mics on the table once everything's charged up. They wanted to do voice lift in that space. They didn't know how big these spaces might be. And they certainly wanted to do conferencing as well. So this right here, the voice lift, is what moved this into what I call a more advanced system and not just a 90% room. The solution here was simple for us. Oops, I apologize. I'm having some trouble with my mouse today. I think it's the wheel. My wheel on my mouse is in a half detent position. There we go. So the solution was the RMW system, and we did 16 of the directional mics. Now, the directional mics are phenomenal. They pick up on a 120-degree pattern, and that will cover 2 to 3 participants easy. If you've only got 16 people, great, everyone gets a mic. You got 32 people, 1 mic between every 2. And we can support up to 48 people with these microphones. So again, very scalable for what they were trying to do. They have 4 of the speakers, 2 for each room, and then they get combined when they open up the air door. And we do it all with the MRX7 processing. So let's take a quick look at, again, thank you, Eric, for your diagram on this as well. What we have here are the 2 separate systems. And you can see there's a PC for conferencing in one room, and this is that USB breakout device I was talking about. This occupies one of the Dante channels in the MRX7. So I can create a room just by adding the USB, which plugs into the computer, just like all of our other solutions. It is native plug-and-play USB. The second I plug that computer in, it recognizes the Yamaha speaker and microphone and swaps right over to them. And the same thing in this other room. We have 2 separate systems. Now we have a control PC down here, and this is the customer that uses Provisionaire software to control all the presets that combine and divide in this system. And again, we did do 2 antennas. We thought about doing one 16, but because they're going in separate rooms, we went ahead and did the 2 separate 8s to keep them as cohesive separate systems in case there's a pretty heavy air door or big distances, whatever it could be. Anyway, here is the actual screenshot of the GUI we set up with Provisionaire. This is really simple. It is user-proof. You either click the uncombine or the combine button. When they're uncombined, you'll have 2 mute buttons. You can control the speaker volume for each section. Right now, this is in combine mode, and it gives you the ability still, when you open that air door, to control the speakers in the front and the back independently. Really, really slick. Now, most of these live venues would incorporate a mixing board. If you've ever walked up to a mixing board with knobs and sliders and dialers and you have to balance the mics in that room, it's daunting, it's intimidating. Nobody would just be able to walk in there cold and do it. Well, here it doesn't get any easier. We've created another page where you can adjust the volume of your mics if you need to. Most rooms, you're not going to touch this, but if you go into one hotel venue where you've got to turn up mic 1 or maybe mic 10 needs to be turned down, simple, anyone can do it. And by the way, we're going to make sure that if you slide this all the way up, you're not going to get feedback. We've limited what that upper range can be. The whole premise here, folks, is we now can do the control as well with the RMW mics. I could have a page here that shows you battery life. And again, this works with anybody's third-party control as well, but this is a beautiful example of using Provisionaire to control the RMW mics in a very advanced system. The last application I want to talk about, this one was really cool. This was an education. You know, we've talked about corporate. We've talked about government. Now let's talk about higher ed a little bit. We probably do more higher ed than corporate with ADECIA when this system first came to market. It was during COVID, so we just literally do hundreds and hundreds of university rooms with this system. What I want to talk about here is a customer in Colorado. This was a well-known Midwestern university, and they were putting in a new nursing college. They had 6 rooms to outfit. And here's again showing you the flexibility of the system. We were asked to leverage existing stuff. They had a beautiful QSC Dante DSP in there. Great. They had an Extron control system. Awesome. Any part of the Yamaha conferencing stuff can be controlled from any control system. They had existing analog speakers, zone speakers in there that we could leverage. Perfect. And they wanted to do conferencing, and their main ask was improved clarity. They did not want ceiling microphones. We had 6 rooms, and we put 24 mics in each room. And again, we used that network synchronization to not have to run any wires between the rooms, making this installation and setup really, really easy. And again, keep in mind, campus-wide, we could have done up to 20 rooms for a total of 160 microphones on this one LAN segment. But what this customer did, which is really cool, one of my favorite features, is they placed all the mics on the tables, and they had a wire chase with a USB tethered to the mic, so that mic was always on 24 hours a day, and it kept the mic in the place where they wanted to keep them on the table. So this is a beautiful example of that advanced feature. They never even take these mics off the table or put them on a charger base. They just simply sit on the table and are active 24/7. If you've got a network operations center, anything mission critical that you do need, 24-hour round the clock, we can support that too very, very elegantly. What I like about this too, with the USB cable, I could just reach over, unplug this, and walk this mic anywhere in the room, and 20 hours later, just go put it right back, and it'll be active and charge right back up at that table. So that's a look at some advanced use cases. We've already covered those 90% easy use cases. So yeah, what we've talked about here today is what shifts it from an RMCR to an MRX7D. What changes? Generally, when I'm asking those questions, voice lift is the first biggie advanced one. You're probably not going to run into mix minus rooms anymore. Literally, folks, they're less than maybe 1 to 5% of the rooms I do max. But voice lift is still pretty prevalent, and that's what shifts my design into what processor I'm going to use. But the beautiful part, we can use the ADECIA RM mics for any of these applications with all the advanced features that are in here. And again, the world-class audio. I've just never heard a better sounding mic than the one I'm talking to you on right now. In fact, our Omni mic, when I first heard the wireless Omni mic, normally an Omni mic's a little reverberant sounding because it's picking up in a spherical half globe pickup pattern. You get a lot of room reverberance. Our Omni mics are world-class. They really are. Blew me away. And that's why the customer in this university went ahead and went with the Omni mics for their application. And we've looked at some success stories. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't sneak in a few quick slides about 2.5, because this ties into what we've been talking about. With our 2.5, Combine and Divide is now an easy setup. Your basic entry-level tech can do it. This used to take hours to set up with an engineer. To do a very complex programming of the DSP and routing and just the physical setup as well. We've added in external device control. We're going to look at that on the next slide. You can easily set up any enterprise class stuff. We support radius authentication within the RMCR, the ADECIA solution as well. We've now made it even easier to set up the RMW. You can now run a 24-hour DECT monitor. You can actually monitor and log the traffic in use. In case you might have interference, we can generally log in and prove that, nope, there's no systems interfering with this in your neighbor's building next door. We can actually run a scan and see all DECT traffic within that environment. And now we can run a 24-hour log with it as well. Very cool. And easy to set up, combine, and divide with Provisionaire, with those templates. Provisionaire used to be you'd have to go in and design it yourself, but we have built-in templates for our conferencing equipment. Again, makes it really easy to make those virtual interfaces. So I want to talk about combine and divide real quick, because to me, this is now an easy, like I've said over and over, this is an easy thing to do with ADECIA. What we have here is a Teams room. We have the basic requirements. We have our RMCR controller connected to a host PC running the meeting. We have a pair of speakers and a microphone. Once your technician mounts all of that, you are 6 mouse clicks in about a minute from being done with that room. Go into the other room, rinse and repeat. Now, with our 10 snapshots, this is in addition to control. We have 10 built-in snapshots. This allows us to do massive changes, and the control string is one command: recall preset 1, recall preset 2. This is the kind of stuff that is hard to do, but with ADECIA and the RMW microphones is simple. Here I'm showing the ceiling mic, but this could work with the W mics as well. Now, you take a snapshot and you call that preset 1. You then open the air door, log into one of the controllers, quickly grab the mics and speakers from the other room, rerun the auto tuning, and take a snapshot of the big system and now call that preset 2. You have now changed all of the Dante routes, the equipment set, and the tuning of each individual piece. Again, I could have another preset that changes an Omni mic to a directional mic on our TT table mics if I want. Any 10 things you can store as system-wide presets. This is huge. And we've added a tool in to do it. You don't have to spend hours and hours as an advanced technician doing this. With a little bit of know-how and knowledge, the guys that are mounting the equipment can now do what would have taken an audio engineer many hours to do. It is just a few mouse clicks with our tool. You can go in. This is a virtual scratchpad workspace. You can configure the 4 rooms however you want. Dimensions aren't important. You're just grouping things. And then it's going to walk you through the menu, and within a few mouse clicks, you have created 3, 4. You can do up to a 4-way with this wizard. You can do more manually, but with this wizard, a 4-way combine and divide is a pretty massive complex. This is a huge tool that we've added in with ADECIA 2.5. And then here it all comes together, right? We've got combine and divide rooms we haven't talked about. This is conversation for another webinar. We have camera partners that can do tracking based on our microphone output information. But now with 2.5, we can store any commands for third-party devices on our controller. And here's how it would work. You walk into the room, you push the button on your control panel. Hey, recall preset 1. We're going to do all of those changes we just talked about for the combine and divide. And in addition, we're going to send commands to the cameras, the lighting system, the projectors, the shades, anything in that ecosystem that we want to control. You can now do it with Yamaha. You don't need a third-party control system. We take the command, we take it into the RMCR, and then we execute the commands to all the peripheral devices within that ecosystem as well. I could have done all of this with one control panel in one of the rooms and done the combine and divide. I didn't need to, but hey, let's throw a second one in there so you can have presets within the second room if you want to do other things as well. Folks, this is a huge advancement, all possible because of the control we've added in and the advanced feature set within the RMW wireless microphone system. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, stop sharing. I'll turn my camera on and take any questions we might have. Come on,
Yeah,
camera.
amazing job, Tim. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, it looks like your camera's having a little issues, but yeah, if
No
you just want
worries.
to, you can just share that last slide again if your camera's having trouble, and just share your screen.
Oh, no
Um,
worries. I think I'm good to go. There we
oh,
go.
there we go. There you are. But yeah, we'll take a breath. Thank you so much. Awesome info as always. For anyone watching, yeah, we're now opening up for a Q&A session. Looks like we've got 3 questions already, and Tim will answer them all. First one we got here: can we see/play around with the design software at Infocom?
Yes, we should have the Provision Air suite up there showing. We should have pretty much most of everything we've talked about here. We'll be able to go over at Infocom. See,
Perfect.
next question.
Yeah, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, I've got them open. Thank you very much. Tim, you might have seen this, but what audio are you on? I'm actually talking on the 6-inch gooseneck right now. A lot of times I'll change cameras. A lot of times I'll do these demonstrations with the ceiling mic above my head in this space. But today I am, for the purposes of this meeting, going as good as it gets. A directional gooseneck mic right in front of my mouth. Am I presenting at Infocom? Yes, please join me. I have 3 breakout sessions for RU. I'll be going over beamforming again, and I am going to be a member on the main stage panel discussion on the final day as well. So please, if you need some RU points, come see some of our Yamaha sessions, and please come see us in our booth as well.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely be over at Infocom. Tim has plenty of sessions booked for you to see him there. You can talk about even all those motorcycles behind him, or anything to do with us here at Yamaha UC. We have Jeff just jumping in here. How many Yamaha rooms do I need to sell to get one of those Yamaha bikes behind you?
To get one of the Yamaha motorcycles?
Yeah.
A bunch. You don't want to know how many room designs I put together to be able to start buying motorcycles. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. It's one of the benefits of working for Yamaha, right? Is Yamaha is just such an amazing company. But you notice the logo on that motorcycle is tuning forks. Audio is our bread and butter. We started out as an audio company making organs, and really that's what we focus on. Great question, Jerry. 2.5 is out. It has been out a couple months now, and it is rocking. All of the stuff I showed you today is ready and available.
Awesome. We'll give it a second here in case any last minute questions trickle in. Maybe another 20 seconds or so, and then we'll wrap things up.
And please join us next month for the 4th and final installment of these Wednesday Wave webinars with my other counterpart, Jason Pavo. He'll be doing the final installment on the RMW wireless microphones.
Perfect. Yeah, looks like everyone's good here. Tim, any final words for the people before I close this out?
No, thank you very, very much. Please reach out to us anytime. We love working with you on the design. We've done hundreds and hundreds of rooms with this equipment. I've been doing conferencing 20 years, and it's an absolute privilege working for Yamaha. What we're seeing here with IA, advanced automation, is huge. Again, folks that don't need to be that up to speed on audio concepts, IT people can install these 90% solutions very, very easily. So please reach out to us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you all so much for joining us today. As Tim had just said, I'd like you all to know we have our next webinar, Wednesday Waves webinar, coming June 19th at 2 p.m. on budget-friendly elevated audio. Yamaha's wireless microphones can process themselves. Hosted by another one of our great engineers. You can find more information about these webinars and products on our social pages. And like I said at the beginning, a recording of this will be popping up on our YouTube ASAP. If nothing else, thank you all so much for joining us today, and have an incredible rest of your night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.